Hi guys, welcome to Diary of a Young Mum. I'm Cindy, your host. Let's talk about it. So Deana, tell me about yourself. Tell me some, interesting facts and, how motherhood is and stuff like that.
So I have two little girls,
Yeah.
Ava and Maya, and they are 2 and 3. Ava will be 4 next month and Maya will be 3 in April. And motherhood as a whole, I just think no one can prepare you for, and I just think that it's hard, but it's so rewarding at the same time.
100%.
So I just think that the way in which, like how everybody is a parent and everybody does this or that, I feel like there's no right or wrong way to do things. It's how it works for you and your kids, because every kid is different for so many different reasons. So I feel like there's no textbook to being a mom at all. And I don't think anyone can prepare you for being a mom.
100%. And I think people definitely think that they can prepare you. They're like, right, I have the checklist. If you do exactly this, then you'll be the perfect mom. But the truth is, there's no perfect mom, number one. And your children are, they're tailored to you at the end of the day. So someone else's experience with their child doesn't mean that you're going to have the same experience, if that makes sense, or you need the exact same guide. So it's kind of learning as you go in, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
How would you say, like having 2 under 2 is? What's your experience on that?
Yeah, that was hard work. I don't think I was prepared for that. And after having my second, it was a bit hard because I did have postnatal depression.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It was a bit of a strange time to navigate. I just think it was hard, and the pressure of 2 of them made it worse. And then I think breastfeeding didn't help the situation because it added that extra almost workload onto it. But I feel like now I'm on the other side, I can kind of reflect and just see that, like, I got through it all and it's fine, because I think if anybody else was feeling the same or experiencing the same thing, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to keep going with it. Babies are hard, toddlers are hard, but 2 under 2 is not for the weak. It is stressful.
No, 100%. I definitely agree. I have 2 under 2 at the moment. I've got a 3-month-old and a 1-year-old. So I've recently had my youngest, and I would definitely say this has been the biggest challenge ever. But it's actually crazy. It actually shows you a type of strength that you didn't even know existed, if that makes sense. And at the end of the day, you're going to make it work regardless what happens. You're going to make it work. What would you say is the hardest thing about the 2 under 2? What would you say the hardest part of it is?
Being needed by 2 little ones for complete 2 different reasons. So obviously, like, the youngest one being like more of a baby, they've got different demands to the toddler. So I feel like they both need you in different ways, and it's hard to kind of fulfill the needs of both of them to the best of your ability, because, like, the newborn's waking up a lot and then the toddler wants to sleep a lot, and then no matter whether you're in like a routine or what, it's just you've got to adapt and try and split yourself in half, and obviously you can't. So it's like one will have to cry a little bit or one will have to wait, and it's almost like dealing with the mom guilt behind it. So I feel like mom guilt is the hardest part to kind of split yourself in two, because you're so used to giving love to one that when it's now there's another one, it's like, oh, what do you do first?
100% agree. Like, there's been so much times for me where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm giving more love to one person than the other, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're both crying, who do I go to first?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really difficult, and you do feel guilty. When my son was first born, I did feel like, I wasn't giving my 1-year-old as much attention as I did, and I was like really close to him, and all of a sudden I felt like our relationship literally just went like this, when all it was I was just splitting my time. And even now I still feel very, very guilty, and these are things that people don't prepare you for. They don't talk to you about this guilt feeling and how deep it can be, do you get what I mean, and how it can actually affect you, like, to the point where it hurts a little bit. Like, it is a lot.
I just think you saying that has just kind of made it more real, because I thought that I was just on my own, like, feeling like that, because I think no one really speaks about the hard parts of motherhood. Like, if you look on social media, everyone just shows like the good bits and all of that, but I feel like there's so much more to it and there's so much more real behind it. And when Maya came along, I was kind of like, oh my God, like, what happened to me and Ava? And even now, sometimes I still feel like, even though we do most things together, because Maya was breastfed for such a long time, I feel like there was that bond with her in a different way compared to there was with Ava. I still breastfed Ava for a little bit, but I don't know, it was just such a dynamic change when you go from 1 to 2. it's like, how can you just do it in the fairest way possible? But I suppose there isn't a right or wrong. It's just attend to both of their needs the best that you can and just keep going, because obviously when they do get older it becomes so much easier. Because I remember when mine was like, Ava was 14 months when mine was born,
Yeah.
and that was just, I was like, oh my God, Ava was like kind of walking and just not really doing a great
Yeah.
deal. And then obviously Maya was just lying there, and it was like, what do you do? But now that they're both like walking, talking, running around, playing with each other and fighting, it's got that little bit easier because they can just do things together and they've got each other's back, which is nice to see. Whereas before, I never thought that you know, like when you're in the moment and you just think,
Yeah.
how do you get out of this moment, or is it going to get better, or is it going to stay like this?
100%.
I feel like it's always going to get better.
Yeah. So, in terms of, breastfeeding, would you say that's something that you're passionate about? And would you say that if you didn't breastfeed, your experience would have been different?
Yeah, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to breastfeed. With Ava, she was tongue-tied, so it hurt a lot more. There was a lot of like, it just felt really awkward, and because obviously I was a new mum as well, it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. With Moira, it was different because she was just literally like a booby baby. She
Okay.
just wouldn't have a bottle. We tried numerous different brands.
Sorry, I like that little name, Booby Baby.
She was like, honestly,
I've never heard that one.
we tried so many different
Yeah.
bottles, all the ones that's supposed to be like shaped like a boot, everything, nothing. She eventually did take to one bottle for a couple of feeds. I know that my best friend fed her, my mum managed to feed her, and then it was kind of just like she would never have it off me because she knew, well, if you're there, you might as well just get your boob out and feed her kind of thing.
So, I want to know what your experience was like, with having a baby young. Like, what was people's opinions and stuff? Did you get any sort of negativity, or how was it for you?
Um, I don't think there was much negativity around it because I feel like my age group, say like at school and around me, kind of, a lot of them already had children at that point. People had kids when we were doing our exams and stuff, so when we were like 16 and then like leaving school, 17, all of that. So I feel like I was quite late to the party, to be fair. And I mean, Ava wasn't planned, she was like unexpected, but still loved, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I didn't really experience much negativity, or if there were any negative things, they didn't get said like told to me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, my mom was a bit shocked, but she was like, okay, like, let's go kind of
Yeah.
thing. And her and Ava, they're obsessed with each other. Like, just seeing that bond, it's unmatched. Like, I feel like she loves her more than me because
That
honestly,
is literally me. Like, I feel like that with my parents. Like, literally the other day, I took my son to my parents' house. In fact, I took both of them and I dropped my youngest. And then, my eldest is in the car and we're about to go shopping. And I could see he was about to cry. So I said to my nan, oh, Nan, can you give me a banana for him? I thought, if I give him food, that will keep him a bit quiet. This guy was not having it. Bear in mind, this guy eats like a pig. Like, he eats so much. He never says no to food. But he was like, no. Like, I want to go in that house now. Then we drove, and I swear to God, for the whole 15 minutes of the journey, he cried. He screamed down the place. Like, he cried so much because he just wanted to go in my parents' house. Like, that is his comfort.
Yeah.
And the bond that they have with him, it just can't be matched. Like, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
do you get what I mean? Like, that's his comfort. That's his safe space. And I never knew this even existed, like this type of feeling as well. For me as his mom, it feels so good to be able to witness that love,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. And it helps in other aspects as well because, you have ups and downs when you're going through pregnancy, when you're going through motherhood. Like, it's not all flowers, how people make it online.
No,
Like, people really make it online like it's flowers, and it's not. There's a lot of dark things that happen behind the scenes. And there's a lot of positive as well, but having that support network is really helpful. And it must also be very difficult for those who don't have that support network.
Oh yeah,
Because
I agree.
motherhood, I don't believe it's something that you can do alone. I believe you do need the support. There's a lot of, aspects to this, and you do need a village to raise a child. I do believe that. So I'm aware that you struggled with postnatal depression. Can you explain that? Like, what does that look like?
I think it looks very different to each person that goes through it. I don't think there's a textbook specific, standard for everybody. But I just feel like I isolated myself quite a lot, and that was one of the first things that I started to do when I just felt like everything was a bit too much. Maya being breastfed, she just constantly, like when they're starting to get into that routine and that cycle of their pattern, but it's not like a formula fed baby how they get fed every 3 hours.
Yeah.
At this time, breastfed babies are
It's on
like
demand.
every 2 minutes or whenever they want it, basically. I found that a bit hard to navigate, so I would just stay in my room and just be there ready to feed her whenever she wanted it, and I felt like I couldn't leave the house. So in my mind, it was kind of just like, okay, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to stay in this room all day, and I'm just going to kind of feed her, and that's basically what I did. Then I started getting the guilt creeping in because I was like, what about Ava? Like, I feel like I can't leave Maya, but what about Ava? Like, and then that's how Ava and my mum got really close then, because my mum kind of stepped in and was like, okay, do what you need to do, like, I'll sort out Ava, kind of thing. And obviously Kyle was helpful as well, but I don't think they fully understood how I was feeling, because one, I'm not really good at speaking about my feelings anyway, and I just think it's hard because you don't want people to kind of laugh at you or think, oh, you don't know what you're doing, see, I knew you couldn't cope with all of this. So I kind of just avoided it a little bit until I realised that it's kind of like, I would just look at her and I'd be like, why have I got you, kind of thing, or why, like, how has this happened? And I'd just kind of start feeling just low in myself. And
Would you say it was negative thoughts? Like, you was almost having negative thoughts about... Yeah. Was it about pregnancy? Was it about giving birth? Or was it about the situation overall?
I think it was the situation overall, because I was just kind of like, if I didn't get pregnant, I wouldn't have another child. I wouldn't be in this situation now, and I'd still be with Ava. So it was kind of like guilt of the whole second pregnancy. It was like, why did it happen? Like, why did I allow that to happen? And it was just, I don't know, it was weird. I started to push all my friends away. Well, I say that like I had loads. Like, my main friend, I was just like, I don't want to go out, I don't want to see you, I don't want to do anything. Not personally, it wasn't a personal attack at all. It was more so, I just don't have the brain power to, like, have conversations. I don't want to speak to anybody, I don't want to do anything. I would just kind of just sit there and I'd just be crying, or I'd just be sad. I'd try and put the TV on and I'd have no interest in, you just haven't got an interest at all. And I just found that I just felt really down all the time. There wasn't a better time. Like, I wouldn't know when to go in the shower. I wouldn't know when to just do, like, standard normal things that we would do before having kids. And that was never the case with Ava. With Ava, I went back to work and I was happy. But then obviously when I had Moira, I was like, I'm not going back to work because I didn't want that pressure. Okay. So I avoided that, which was one good thing. But then I was kind of like, what am I going to do about money? Like, how am I going to survive if I don't go back to work? So it was always then that's what led me on to building my own business. But yeah, it was hard. And I feel like the feelings of, like, well, what if I never had you? Would I be happier? And then I felt guilty for thinking that, because I was like, well, actually, I have got you, and there's people out there that can't have kids or are struggling. So why am I here thinking like this? But I guess you can't control your feelings at a specific point. 100%. And I've learned now that you should just allow yourself to feel what you need to feel and then navigate through that. So I did have counselling. Well, when I spoke to the doctors, and there was on about antidepressants, but then it affects breast milk, and I was like, I don't want it to filter into her because it's my issue, not hers.
Okay, yeah.
So I just didn't do anything, and I just kind of, there was like a workbook thing on Amazon that I started, like, working through, and then obviously my mum and Carl were kind of like looking at it and just kind of, if they wanted to read anything they could, so that they kind of understood. But then I ventured out and actually had counselling. I finished that January, now. And yeah, that was really nice to open up to someone that I didn't know, because I feel like when you speak to people, there's a lot of judgment behind it, whether they mean it or they don't, or they don't say. So I think speaking to someone that doesn't know you, doesn't know anything about you, they only know what you tell them, I feel like that was quite nice, because she was lovely, and honestly, she would listen, but she'd always provide you with, like, a second perspective. So how I felt, and I'd say, like, oh, I'm feeling like this and this has happened, she'd be like, but have you thought about it from this way? And I was like, actually, no, I haven't. So I feel like counselling, there's a lot of stigma behind it, like, oh, like, you've got issues or this and that, but you know what, a lot of people do have issues and they're just not ready to admit that to themselves. Whereas I was, because I just wanted to feel better and do better and put everything behind me, so to speak. So I felt like that was a way to navigate through it all, and it really helped. And we just spoke about things like from my childhood that could have made me the person I am today, and how it shaped my responses to certain things.
Okay, yeah,
and I feel like it was just really beneficial. So I do think that, like, if there was anybody out there struggling and wasn't sure how to navigate, I feel like counselling is such a really good route. The one that the doctors tried to put me on was a phone call one, and they spoke to me really babyish, well, in my opinion. But it was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how depressed do you feel? 1 being none at all and 10 being really... And I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I just need someone to listen to me and kind of take that weight off my shoulders and kind of be like, it's okay to feel like that, but this is how we can kind of fix it. But that was just terrible. So when I went and actually, sorted it on my own, I feel like it's got me into such a better place, like mentally, physically, and just in motherhood alone, really.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. I feel like a lot of people, well, including myself, when I hear the word counselling, I almost freeze.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, I don't want to speak to no stranger about, my trauma and stuff. But it is 100%, like, it's very important. It is really important. And I think people don't realise the importance of counselling until they actually experience it and do the counselling. But it's about being open to it in the first place so you can actually experience it.
Yeah.
Because if you're constantly saying no, then you're not going to know what's there for you. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's important to deal with things such as postnatal depression. Now, I would say that I've experienced postnatal depression, but from listening to yourself, I wouldn't say it was anything major, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was as serious. It was little thoughts here and there, but it wasn't something that affected my, like daily lifestyle and my everyday, etc. But it definitely isn't a nice feeling. And what we have to remember as well as moms is that our babies depend on us emotionally. We are, their emotional well-being as well. Even though they're their own person, they look at us for comfort as well. So we do need to look after our mental health. We do need to look after ourselves. We do need to make sure we're feeling good and we're doing the things so that we do feel good. So I definitely, agree that we should get help when these things happen, and a lot of people don't. Also, a lot of people are scared to speak about postnatal depression. Let's be real, like when we think about, the NHS and stuff like that, obviously they're about looking after us, but also protecting the kids. And often people are scared to speak to the NHS about these issues because they think, oh, they're going to think I'm crazy, or they're going to start and they're going to send, I don't know, like a support worker or something to my house, or they're going to try and get involved in my family life, or they're going to be watching me. And these things actually happen and they don't get spoken about. And a lot of people hesitate, from having conversations with other people. I know a lot of people hesitate to speak to the NHS or other professionals about certain things, especially when it comes to children, because they may see you as a harm because of what you're experiencing. When you get down to it, like, you're not a harm, you just need to deal with what's going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I want to know more about, like, I know that you have like a business. Like, can you tell me a bit more about that and how you handle business and motherhood?
Yeah, that's quite a funny one because I don't think there is a right or wrong way, and I feel like I'm still navigating my way through it all, because I mean my business now is like a year old, and I just set it up from scratch, and I didn't want to go back to work because prior to what I do now I was a dental nurse, and I think it was like really long hours, and I was just always away from Ava because I went back to work when she was about 8 weeks old, just because I didn't want like the financial burden of not being able to support my child and all of that. So mom guilt set in, and I was like, right, I have to go back to work. I only went like 2 days a week, something stupid like that. But I still tried, and that was, and then I just thought, what, I can't do it again, not after having 2. How can I leave 2 of them? So I decided to set up my own business, and it's something that I kind of always had done, because I'd always helped with like my mum's friend's social media and things like that. And then I thought, well, actually, if I'm doing it for one person, surely there's more people out there that need help with their social media. So then that's when I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to invest in a course or something to teach me more.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then now, like, obviously fast forward a year, I've got my main social media management and content day business, and then now I've got like my photography side of things. So it's like kind of two businesses really, and to navigate that around the kids, I'd say it's up and down. There's never like 2 days the same because it's always different. Some days the kids are perfectly fine. They'll just play with them, like with each other, and they'll read, they'll have fun, they'll do colouring, arts and crafts, they'll play so nice together.
Yeah.
And obviously on those days I can get so much work done because I'm just sat there. Obviously I can keep my eye on them, but I'm still working and getting stuff done. Then there's other days where if they're ill, that's a hard day, because if they're ill, I might as well just keep my Mac closed and just think, okay, it's like a sick day for me as well. Obviously they do come first, but then I have clients that are expecting work and have things that need to be done. So it's hard, but it's doable. And I think that if there was anybody out there that wanted to create their own business or think, how can I be a business owner and a mom, it is so doable. And there's so many other moms out there that do it, and I think, like, don't hold yourself back just because you've got children, because you can literally do so much with them attached to you as well. You can just keep going. But I would say that my biggest, like, the thing that I found the hardest was the fact that it was like, how do I work with the kids around me? But then now they're at nursery, and then Ava will go to school September. It's kind of like, just give it time and do what you can when you can. And obviously, you know, communicate that across. And when you're self-employed anyway, you make the rules. And that's the flexibility and the good side about it, because you can work when you want, you can be a mom when you want, and ultimately you're never going to leave their side. And that's what I loved about it. And that's what pushed me to do it.
Okay, so would you say being your own boss is kind of like the best thing you can do because you have that flexibility?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you say that you can have, has there ever been any times where you feel like you can't tend to their needs because of business?
No, unless I was like obviously not working from home and I was in studio doing doing content days or doing like studio sessions. That's the only time that I'm really away from home, or else otherwise I'm pretty much at home all the time. So I feel like if I had a phone call from nursery to say like they need to be picked up, I can go. Or my work's not really tying me down, if that makes sense. You know, like a normal 9 to 5 job, like you have to be there at this time and you can't leave, and if you do this, you're not going to get paid, or your boss is going to say this. Like, I have none of that because I am my own boss. So if I need to go and pick them up, I'm going to pick them up. Or if I, you know, Ava not that long ago was in hospital, and Maya was in hospital, and all of this, and like I communicated that to my clients, and I was like, look, this is what's happening, we're up to date anyway, let me know if you need anything, but this is what I'm doing currently. And they were all fine with that, and they all accepted that. And I think that's what makes it better, because when you're self-employed you can pick and choose who you work with, and you can really have those boundaries in place to protect you, your family life, and ultimately everything around you. So I like that now. I don't think I could ever go back to the corporate world now. After like living the life that I'm living now, I couldn't go back.
After living the life of being a boss.
Yeah,
that's
literally.
Yeah. So you mentioned that obviously your kids were in hospital. Now, how did that feel like as a mom? Like, you know, your kids being in hospital for whatever reason, they were in hospital. How did that feel? Because I know for a fact when, like, my son can just have a cold, or my son could be breathing funny. Like last night, my son, he wasn't breathing properly. I was like, I can't sleep. I literally got up and I tried to clear his nose. How am I going to clear his nose? Like, seriously. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to clear his nose. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to clear his nose, and I'm not going to sleep until the way he breathes changes.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit crazy now. People are going to think, what are you talking about? But I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, that feeling, you know, that worry, like, it's crazy. And no one ever prepares you for this as well. Like, there's just this feeling, like, when it comes to your kids, you constantly, well, for me personally, I'm constantly worrying, or I'm a bit on the edge. I'm like, oh, is he okay? Is he okay? Or what's going on? Oh, he's hurt himself. I feel hurt too. Like, that's literally how it feels. Like, what was your experience, you know, your kids being in hospital, as you mentioned? How did you feel? Did you go through anything? Like, what was you experiencing? What was you feeling? Was it, you know, very difficult for you? Like, how was it?
I think it's hard. It was nothing serious. So, you know, like, I've had temperatures at nursery for like a couple of days, and then it would progressed, and, you know, they were just running tests on her, blood tests and things. But seeing that, it wasn't nice. And obviously nothing prepares you for seeing your child like distressed and upset, and ill, essentially.
Yeah.
And then we've not known what's wrong. Like, could it be more than just something that's viral? Is it, something more serious? Is it not? And then when they're just coming in and then they're just taking blood samples and going out and not saying much, it's a very, like, scary situation. And I'm kind of a person that won't ask questions. I kind of just sit back and wait to be told something.
Yeah.
Whereas my mom, on the other hand, God, she's crazy. She's like, I'm going to ask everything. I'm going to ask this and this. I just feel like since having the kids, I lost my confidence a little bit to speak. So I'm trying now to build that back. But even in situations like that, I'd rather not know and just kind of wait a little bit. And which sounds weird because at the same time I want to know, but I don't like asking questions or feeling like I'm overstepping. But then when the one nurse did come back, I was like, can you just give me an update, like what's happening? Because I'm kind of like a bit in the dark. And then obviously I had Kyle, the kid's dad, like, what's going on? I was like, I don't actually know. He's like, well, ask, like, I want to know what's going on. He's at work panicking himself and he's like, do you want me to come out? Do you want, like, and I was like, well, no, not yet until I know more. And he was like, so ask and find out. So then that kind of pushed me in the right direction to ask. But luckily they were both fine. But I think at that moment it was just scary just to see them, have these really high temperatures and then go like lethargic and just all, droopy and stuff and not really responding the same as normal. But yeah, I think nothing prepares you for being a mom at all,
100%,
ever.
Yeah.
There's so many situations that I've experienced, but then there's going to be so many more to come, like as they get like teenagers or even primary school. And there's so many moments that no one can really prepare you for. But then I think back to my childhood and how my mom like went through all of these things, and some things she might not have ever experienced and other things she might have like fully experienced. And even like our journeys as mums are so different, even though she's my mom. But I just think it's nice now for me to kind of reflect on my childhood and think, you know what, my mum actually did a really good job. She did a lot of it on her own, and she also, like, how would I have done that if I was in her situation? Like, she kept the roof over our heads on her own. Like, she did everything. And I just think, you know what, like, credit where credit is due, because she did that and she seemed fine. Maybe she wasn't, but, like, she put a good front on if she, like, if she wasn't okay. But that just makes me feel like, you know what, she's actually such an inspiration. And that kind of motivated me to kind of be the mum that I am today, because of just seeing and looking back to how she was with me. It was just like unbelievable how she managed to just do everything and more. She was literally like a superhero at that point.
Well, I'm sure your mum will see this episode, so let's shout out to your mum for raising such a lovely woman, and now she's an amazing mum to two young children. What would you say is the hardest thing of motherhood?
Routine. I'd say that obviously every day is different. So for me, I'm kind of like a regimented person. I like my routines. I like things. I'm not very good with change. And obviously having kids, things change every day. Their behaviour changes, their eating habits change, and then everything just makes you question, am I the problem? Like, am I doing a good job? Am I good enough? And I think it's just remembering that, you know what, you are good enough. Those children don't know any different. They only know you. They look up to you as a parent. So I feel like we need to take that pressure off ourselves, and we need to actually understand that, you know what, those little ones look up to us and we are the best version of ourselves for them. So I think I'd probably say the hardest part is routine, because everything changes. And then when you've got into a nice routine with nursery, it's time for them to go to school. And then you've got a whole new world that you're going to adventure like then. Obviously, I'm not at that point yet until September, but that's a whole new world. Then I've got to take one child to nursery and one child to school. And
Can we talk about how nursery knocks them out?
Oh, yeah.
The power of... I'm like, okay, you get in, bed. Straight to bed. Do you know what I mean? Trying to play with me, bed.
Nursery.
Like, literally.
But also the germs.
The germs. Like, that is something that really gets on my nerves. Because I get sick, and then also I have a 3-month-old baby. But even if I didn't have a 3-month-old baby, like, why do you have to bring germs home? I think germs is the worst part of nursery. Like, I love nursery, and I know that my son loves nursery, but the infections and the sickness that come from, like, it's guaranteed. It's literally part of the package. So imagine you've got your hours. So say they're in for 8 hours and it costs this amount. And then, like, germs And
Yep.
sickness is
Free.
literally on the
Free.
sickness for free. Like, imagine, guys,
But I
you're
think,
literally getting germs for free.
You know what, though? It's
Yeah.
those mums. Now, fair enough, I get that everyone's got to go to work or, you know, you've got commitments and stuff. But if your child is ill, please just keep them at home.
Yeah.
Like, please don't send them to infect everybody else and bring
Let's
it in.
talk about the parents that bring their sick child. So their child was fine. Oh. Guys, there's just like a madness that just happened. You know, let's not even talk about it. Don't even ask why I'm laughing. Anyways, I was saying, let's speak about the children that come to nursery. In fact, let's not speak about the children. Let's speak about the parents of the children. So they know that their child's become sick, and they still bring them to nursery knowing that they can make other kids sick. Like, just keep your child at home. I'm not even trying to be rude or anything like that. Just keep your child at home. And that is something that really gets on my nerves. Like, and you know what's crazy as well? Nursery staff will, like, they will just accept these kids. Like, they're like, fine. They don't even care about the germs. Like, let's talk about how it's normal in society. Like, every time I've spoken to nursery about someone, whether it's been a family member, whether it's been about a friend, they're like, oh yeah, they'll catch bugs in the first few weeks. Why is that a normality? Like, for me, that shouldn't be a normality. In fact, we should want our kids not to be sick, and we shouldn't be okay with that being a normality. That's like my opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, them being sick is, you know, something's going wrong in their body, or something's affecting their immune system. So I definitely think, like, that is an issue that I have. Like, it's a normality. Oh, yeah, they'll catch bugs in the first few weeks. It's almost like this is part of the package. It's normal, but let's not make it normal anymore. Let's try and prevent this, as difficult as it may be, if that makes sense. So that's the one thing that I would definitely say that I dislike the most about nursery. But overall, nursery was one of the best decisions that I made for my son. I feel like he definitely needed the social aspect.
Yeah.
He needed to, you know, interact with other children. It's definitely helped him develop in many ways. And it's also helped me with having that time in the week so I can do what I need to do, if that makes sense, in order to grow as myself, as a person, and also just get, you know, like house duties and stuff like that. Sometimes it's nice just having that breakaway, but also not putting that pressure on family. Even if family may not make it seem like it's pressure, sometimes, you know, you just want that time, if that makes sense. Wait, Deana.
Yeah.
Guys, I keep pronouncing her name wrong, like it's actually really bad. But what I want you guys to do, what I want you to do, is write a piece of advice for the next mum that's going to come on this podcast, for the next episode. What's the best piece of advice that you can give them? If you could write it in the notepad, please.
Yeah.
And we're not going to tell the audience what this advice is.
Okay.
The next person who's on the episode is going to read it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Thank you.
It's difficult sometimes.
I know.
Because it's like, there's so much. There's just not one piece of advice, but you have to pick your best. I can literally fall asleep right now. Like, this wine is like a sleeping tablet. It's literally
If
like
that's
a
the
sleeping
case,
tablet.
I need to have that every night.
Yeah.
Should I put that it's from me?
Yeah, so you can put like a signature. This is a long piece of advice, isn't it?
Sorry, yeah.
Well, so the next guest will be reading it. I can't know what. I'm so tempted to read it.
No, don't do
I'm
it.
gonna close it. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You're welcome.
It was lovely having you and lovely having a chat with you. I do have a little gift. Just to say. So some flowers there. Thank you for watching Diary of a Young Mom. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Let's talk about it.